Did you know that the most painful sting in the world does not belong to a hornet, nor a wasp, but an ant? These remarkably intelligent creatures have some of the most complex societal structures on the planet, and even wage war on one another using chemical warfare. With an estimated 20 quadrillion ants on Earth, they can be found on every continent except for Antarctica. But how much do we truly know about these fascinating creatures? Ants invented farming millions of years before humans discovered it, and they even keep livestock. It was recently discovered that ants can even clone other species. The tropical rainforests of South America are teeming with life and home to some of the most fearsome animals in the world. But what if I told you that the most feared of all insects is in fact an ant? But this is no ordinary ant. The bullet ant, which can be found in the humid lowlands, is known to have the most painful sting in the world. If you happen to have the misfortune of being stung by one of these ants, and think it'll be alright, because just like any other insect sting, the pain will soon fade. Think again. Venezuelans refer to this ant as the 24-hour ant, because that's how long the pain lasts, if you're lucky. So how do we know that the bullet ant sting is actually the most painful in the world? In 1983, the chemist and entomologist Justin Schmidt set out to classify the relative pain inflicted by various insect stings, and created the Schmidt Sting Pain Index. And how were these stings measured? Well, Schmidt tested them on himself. Yeah, now that's dedication. Throughout his career, Schmidt was stung over 1,000 times. I've been stung by African paper wasps and European hornets, and that's more than enough for me. What's the most painful sting you've ever experienced? Let me know in the comments. The bullet ant comes out on the very top of the scale with a perfect score of 4. Schmidt described the bullet ant sting as pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. Although many others who've been stung describe the pain like that of being shot. Hence the name bullet ant. When we look at the chemistry behind the sting, it's not surprising that the day-long pain is so intense. As soon as the sting penetrates the skin, a rush of different neurotoxins is released, targeting the nervous system directly. The result is excruciating pain. Within nerve cells, sodium channels are responsible for sending pain signals to the brain. While these channels are open, pain floods through. Under normal circumstances, these channels are only open for a brief period of time, allowing the pain to subside eventually. But the bullet ant venom hones in on these sodium channels, binding with them and forcing them open. This is why the pain is so intense and lasts for as long as it does. While venom from other animals, such as scorpions, behave in a similar way, the bullet ant is in a category of its own. And studying this ant could allow researchers to better understand pain. But it's not just the excruciating pain that these ants inflict. Other symptoms of even a single sting include muscle paralysis, hallucinations, cold sweats, vomiting, and unusual heartbeats. And this is how ants manage to hunt way above their weight category, going after an assortment of insects, spiders, and even frogs. But these aren't small ants either. Bullet ants can grow up to 3 centimeters, or 1.2 inches, placing them amongst the largest ants in the world. In fact, they are sometimes mistaken for wasps who've lost their wings. But there are some people who deliberately seek out these ants in order to be stung by them. Within the Brazilian Amazon, bullet ants play an important part in the society of the Sateremawe people. They play a primary role in the centuries-old ritual, where young men transition from childhood to adulthood. In the morning of the ritual, bullet ants are captured within the hollow of a bamboo stick and then brought back to the village, where they are placed in a bucket filled with water and chopped cashew leaves. This anesthetizes the ants for about half an hour, allowing them to be woven into a glove with their stings on the inside. Participants gather in a circle around the glove, where they each thrust their hand into the glove where the ants await and keep it there for at least 10 minutes. This is one of the most painful initiation rituals in the world. If the young man one day hopes to become a leader, he cannot acknowledge the agony. Young men will complete this ritual multiple times within their lifetime. Some outsiders have attempted this ritual, but most end up in hospital. Most ant species will go to war with other ant colonies over territory or other resources, much like humans. But these wars are not just an eruption of chaos, as we could assume, but structured battles. There are no specific leaders in battles, but ants have their own tactics, and each ant knows instinctively how to react to the opposing threat. Equipped with powerful mandibles, ants can often take on foes much larger than themselves by targeting key areas, such as the eyes, antennae, or the small joints between the different parts of their enemies' bodies. Although many battle tactics come down to the use of venom, whose potency depends on the species. Some ants can even use their venom to launch ranged attacks at their enemies by spraying them. There is even a type of ant known as the explosive ant, which is aptly named, for it sacrifices itself in battle by exploding next to its enemies, drenching them in a toxin that kills or incapacitates them. In the end, it is often the larger colony who emerges as the victors. But the crown of war amongst the ants goes to the driver ants, also known as safari ants, who are a type of army ant. Some of you may have seen Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Remember the scene where the bad guys are devoured by an all-consuming wall of unrushing ants? Yes, that scene was definitely Hollywood's own take. But it's an exaggeration rather than an invention. In fact, it's not that far from the truth. While most ant colonies number in the thousands, driver ant colonies can contain up to 50 million ants. These nomadic ants are forced to move on quickly simply due to the sheer quantity of food they require to feed the colony. Nothing stands in the way of these enormous columns of migrating ants. If they need to cross a gap, some ants will link themselves together, forming a bridge for the rest of the colony. As the most aggressive species of ant in the world, they devour any animal that stands in their path. So we can clearly see the inspiration for the scene in Indiana Jones. Except driver ants move at about 20 meters per hour, so a healthy human would have plenty of time to just get up and move away. Other animals, often caught by surprise, aren't so lucky. The driver ants blanket their prey with their sheer numbers, and they rip apart the flesh with their powerful mandibles. These mandibles are so powerful that in certain areas of East Africa, the locals use these ants as emergency stitches. The ants are enticed to bite the wound closed, and then the heads are broken off, leaving the mandibles holding the wound together. These ants help humans in other ways too. You would think that a colony of driver ants marching throughout your home and your fields would be a sign that the apocalypse has come. But it's actually the opposite. Driver ants are the perfect exterminators. They clean out all insects as well as animals as big as rats from the house and crops. In fact, these ants have the greatest diversity of prey. But you'd better get out of their way and come back a few hours later once they've gone. And we can't talk about dangerous ants without mentioning the bull ant. Native to Australia, these ants are responsible for 6 confirmed human deaths and are officially the most dangerous ant. However, this classification is rather unfair. They are officially named the most dangerous ant because of the 6 related deaths, but all victims had confirmed prior allergies to the ant's venom. But even for those without allergies, I wouldn't take my chances. These particularly aggressive ants bite with their mandibles and sting at the same time, and it's painful. But ants don't just rely on pure combat strength in order to function. Far from it. In fact, ants have some of the most complex and structured societies on the planet. Ants' societal structure is so intricately woven that together, the colony behaves as a superorganism. Like cells within the human body, the idea of individualism disappears. Every ant has its role, and this role is never questioned. First, we have the queen ant, who is the biggest of all the ants in the colony. She isn't a queen in the human sense of the word, as she doesn't give orders. Instead, she is the female ant, who is solely responsible for breeding. In most species, she will mate once in her lifetime, during a nuptial flight. This will allow her to lay eggs throughout her entire life. Male ants, or drones, serve a single purpose in ant society. Once they've mated with a queen from another ant colony, they die shortly afterwards, their life's purpose having been fulfilled. Then we have the other female ants, the soldiers and workers, all of whom are sterile. Soldier ants are bigger ants, but still remain smaller than the queen. They are responsible for protecting the colony and the nest. Soldier ants are special in the sense that not all species of ants have soldier ants. Worker ants are responsible for everything else, such as cleaning the nest, caring for the young, general maintenance around the nest, and guarding the entrance, and foraging for food. The workers' tasks are generally divided according to their age. In such a well-oiled society structure, nothing is left to chance. The queen ant can choose whether she lays a male egg or a female egg. In most species, she does this by choosing whether the egg she lays is fertilized or not. Fertilized eggs produce females, while unfertilized eggs produce males. This means that each male is made up of a random subsection of their mother's DNA. In some species, such as the fungus-growing ant, the queen reproduces without ever mating. As a result, the all-female colony is made up of genetic clones of their mother. But it gets even weirder. Just a few months ago, researchers from the University of Montpellier, where I did my own PhD, found that the Iberian harvester ant queen can clone other species of harvester ant which diverged over 5 million years ago. The queen mates with males from the other species and then produces eggs which are clones of the father. This means that she can actually give birth to 2 different species of male ant. She then mates with these clones to produce female hybrid worker ants. This is the first time any animal in the world has been observed cloning other species. Within ant society, there is no leader indicating which task each ant should perform, but ants do communicate, and they do it extremely well. Ants sometimes communicate with vibrations, chirping, or with their antennae, but they mainly rely on pheromones. These pheromones are a language unto itself. When an ant finds something noteworthy, it excretes pheromones to signal their findings to other ants. The type of pheromone excreted depends on both the species of ant and what the ant wishes to communicate. For example, the pheromone excreted to signal a food source will be different to a pheromone excreted to signal the presence of an enemy. In doing so, ants map out the area around their nest, creating an intricate network of trails leading to points of interest. other ants from the colony follow the pheromone trails. And if the trail leads to something interesting, such as food, they will reinforce the trail with their own pheromones, creating their own GPS-based social network with a comment section. Unfortunately, this network can sometimes backfire. Army ants, who are blind and nomadic, rely solely on following pheromone trails left by a lead ant. The lead ant sometimes has to make a detour around an obstacle and can stumble upon its own pheromone trail, which it then follows, leading it to walk in circles. Each ant behind blindly follows, reinforcing the circular pheromone trail as they go. This creates a phenomenon known as the death spiral, where ants will continue walking in their circle until they eventually die of exhaustion. Contrary to popular belief, humans did not invent farming. In fact, when we discovered it only 10,000 years ago, we were already about 65 million years later than the ant. The best example of this are leafcutter ants. Leafcutter ants, as the name would suggest, spend their days cutting leaves from trees of the tropical and subtropical regions of the Americas. But they don't eat these leaves. Instead, they haul them into their garden, hidden deep underground within their nest, where they act as fertilizer for a specific type of fungus. This fungus produces nutrients which the ants eat. This type of farming is known as fungiculture, and it's something that can be observed in multiple different species of ants. This specific type of fungus is fully domesticated, meaning it can't survive on its own. But despite the high volume of leaves collected, these ants aren't responsible for deforestation. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When these ants cut the leaves from the trees, they're actually pruning the trees, which encourages growth. The cut leaves also fertilize the soil, readying it for new plants. Like any good farmer, the ants actively protect their crops. The first and most important level of protection is in their choice of leaves, as they only take leaves which are not harmful to the fungus. By observing which plants these ants purposely avoid, researchers have discovered plants with antifungal properties. The ants also use their own bodies to cultivate a special type of bacteria which produces antibiotics for the fungi, protecting them from harmful bacteria. This gives the ants a white, waxy look. Some smaller ants ride on leaves carried back to the nest, cleaning them and protecting the carrying ants from predators. But ants' advanced farming techniques don't stop there. Some ants have gone so far as to farm livestock. In fact, many types of ants keep aphids like humans keep cows. The most advanced of these farmers is the yellow meadow ant, sometimes called the yellow hill ant. These ants milk their domesticated aphids by stroking their bellies with their antennae. The ants' underground nest contains chambers dedicated to housing aphids, which keeps them safe from the harsh environment and other predators. The ants groom the aphid eggs, protecting them from fungi, and collect them in preparation for winter. Without the ants, these eggs will never survive. Some scientists believe that the ants even carry newly hatched aphid nymphs to the grass roots upon which they feed. If the ants have to evacuate their nest because of imminent danger, they will take the aphids with them. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up or sharing it with someone. And check out this next video if you're interested in learning about a bird that could help end poaching once and for all. And it just so happens to be one of the most misunderstood animals on the planet.